Hi, and welcome to As a Service Andy. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about as a service. And, here's the interesting thing. I got an incredible article sent to me, blog post, which I'll put up on the post here so that you guys can take a look at it. And it's really in regards to the differences between what is infrastructure as a service, what is platform as a service, what is communications as a service, what is software as a service, and how do these all differ with one another. And it's important to understand each one of them because you might be using more than one of them at any one time. And then there's different facets that you want to augment with each one. And so as you go forward with this, it's something that you need to understand what it is that you're looking for. So what is your intent? And this blog post will absolutely help you. And I didn't write it; it's somebody else's, and give them all the credit in the world for it. I just thought it was fantastic that it was sent my way. But it's important. But I absolutely happened to be talking to a CPaaS vendor the other day, and I thought that what the conversation was pretty interesting. When you have something like communication platform as a service, and you're able to augment, so it's one thing that if I provide a software to you as a service, right? If I provide this is the specific software that I provide to you as a service, and I'm going to continue to iterate on it, versus a platform, whether it's a communication platform or another platform as a service where here's an environment in which you can augment and utilize in order to do really, I hate to say it, but it's almost like your own software as a service, and it's really the way that you want to route things in some type of a low code environment. If you look overall, this is generally where a lot of the industry is going, where these it's not even so much the infrastructure as a service, because that's great and you want that, but there's like the big players there. Those infrastructure as a service are going to sit there and you're going to have them, but it's these platform as a service, because even the infrastructure as a service players are now building platforms on their infrastructure as a service which you can utilize. And then if you want more specific software, then you're coming off of that platform to that specific software, and you can connect that via the cloud. You can connect it in a number of different ways. And so the reality is when you start looking at as a service, you need to list out your objectives. And I'm a big fan of listing and putting value on your list. So what are your needs? Listing out your needs for each different items. And here's what I mean by that. So if you want to do, say, I want to do conversational AI, right? Let's just say that's one. Pulling it out of the blue. Only because I just recently had a conversation about it. But if I want to do conversational AI, what are the things that I want out of that conversational AI in order to go forward on my platform? So here's what conversational AI does. It lets any interaction that goes on your platform to be done automated with artificial intelligence interacting back to the individual or the customer that's trying to consume it. And so if I want something like that, how do I want to consume that? Well, you could, right? Most of these are going to be some type of a cloud environment that you're going to touch in on. But what if you want to design it differently? What if you want some machine learning mechanism in there? What if you want to use different speech recognition patterns? There's all kinds of different what ifs, right? What if I want full blown chatbots on my web interface? What do I want there? And do I want that pre-built and preset, or do I want to be able to build it myself? Or do I want the capability for whoever's providing that to build it for me? Again, these are all questions that you get to ask, and those questions then come down to it will help you narrow down your vendor search. Because if I want conversational AI, for example, and I want to do that from an interactive standpoint on the front end of any interaction that comes in, whether that be a ticket that comes in, a web that comes in, a call that comes in, an email that comes in to my business, and I want to front end that with some type of intelligence first. Not saying you won't get them to a live individual, but you want to front end that. How do I want that to flow? And is there rote things that need to be done? So then I list out the rote things. So if you find that 60%, 50%, 40%, doesn't matter. It might even be as low as 20% of your calls are simply change of address. Okay, I want them to be able to do change of address. Is that built in to this? Is there a preset script that goes forward and shows them change of address. And if there is, and then it captures that data and then it updates your database or your CRM system all on its own, great. Now, you go, well, change of address is one thing, but there's like 12 other things that I want to do with it. I want to do change of address. I want to, change one of their preferences. I want to do returns on an order. There's all kinds of things. And you want to build those out. Then you start, as you evaluate the vendors that you're looking at, you start to ask those questions. How do they do those? Because if they don't have pre-built AIs for each one of them, then you got to say, how do I build it, or how do I pay somebody to build it for me? Because that ends up being a little bit of the challenge, and that's the tension that goes on. Is in the past, everything we had on site, we did it and we managed it ourselves, and now we're kind of giving some of that up in some type of an as a service environment. And when you give that up, you have to see, what are my tools and what are your tools, and how do I separate the two? So first thing, list out your objectives of what you want to accomplish. List out the things that you want to do that you think are rote, and then put a value on each one of them. And once you do that, you'll then be able to more qualify your vendor. And you can do this across the board. I just gave one example. We'll give a couple more in the coming weeks. And we're going to, I know I've promised it a couple times, we're going to get a couple of folks on here that have more information than even I do on some of these topics. But for that, that's this week for As a Service, Andy. And we'll chat with you next week. Take care.